I would request everyone to kindly be seated as we are about to begin this wonderful morning. Ready? As usual, we'll be needing your support throughout the sessions, throughout the day, to make this event very fruitful and successful. I would request everyone to settle down towards the end. How are you feeling in the city of love? Lots of love? All right. Well, I'm your host, Pallavi Shetty, welcoming you all once again to this wonderful conference today. And talking about IPCA, we all know that IPCA has reached great heights of success and glory, and it couldn't have been possible without your support. And to begin with, Indian Paint and Coating Association is an amalgam of paint, ink, powder coating, resins, pigments, packaging manufacturers, raw materials, traders, machinery manufacturers, and allied industries. It has a pan-India level presence like Delhi, Maharashtra, Western Ghaziabad, Central UP, Lucknow, Kanpur, MP Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Gujarat, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh, Eastern UP, Agra, and Kerala. IPCA has been in the forefront of organizing path-breaking events benefiting the paint and coating industry. IPCA has been regularly organizing technical conferences, regional residential conferences, and mega biennials. IPCA has also organized technical workshops and certificate courses in coating technology. IPCA often acts as a bridge between the academia, manufacturers, and corporates to impart knowledge through training sessions and problem solving. This kind of core technical input from an industry body has capitulated IPCA into a different league altogether. The experience and wisdom of the wise and experienced needs to be shared and not hoarded. IPCA's goals of serving the members and facilitating disbursement of wisdom and knowledge in unison resulted in the creation of the series of conferences aptly named Knowledge Sharing Conferences and through regular industry updates through IPCA cleaners. We shall now begin with our session for the day. And to begin with, we'll be having a motivational session. I would now request Shri Rajiv Parekh to accompany Shri Dilip Raghavan to the dais with a huge round of applause, gentlemen. Color Publications Private Limited, India's oldest publishing house for techno-commercial journals in India. He is the editor-in-chief for the 7 journals being published by them in various fields like coatings, plastics, polymers, packaging, textiles, inkjet printing, 3D printing, personal home care, pharma, etc. Meanwhile, I would request both the gentlemen to please come on the stage right to the center. And I would request Shri Rajiv Parekh to present a beach box. Can we have a huge round of applause? Well, Mr. Dilip Raghavan, he frequently represents India and the industries, and he serves through his publication at international forums both as media representative and at times as a country speaker. And with great honor, over to you, sir. And I'm so delighted and thrilled to introduce this gentleman. And it's going to be a motivational session, so obviously it's going to be a very wonderful start of this morning. Over to you. Thank you.
Audible? Okay, morning everyone. Pleasure to be back here at IPCA's Biennial, this time after a 1-year gap. So the more the merrier in this case. The last few times I have had the honor of being the last speaker before the cocktail. And this time around I requested the leadership at IPCA saying that, you know, I seem to have become a bit of a villain because I'm always before the cocktail. So why don't you give me a more convenient slot? So the lovely gentlemen that they are, yeah, I realize that, yeah. So the lovely gentlemen that they are, they said, okay, no worries, we take you out of the last slot. And what did they do? Put me in the first slot. So I'm actually wondering if that was better or not. But that's okay, life is full of challenges, a new one to deal with today. Before I come to the core topic, again, it's a bit of an irony that I've been called the motivational speaker today because I really don't believe in the concept of motivational speakers. And the reason for that is I believe that If we cannot be self-motivated to run our own businesses, to serve our own families, to support our own families, to support the larger ecosystem, to support the industry that we are a part of, if we really do need external motivation, maybe we are in the wrong business. So I would like to look at it more as perhaps inspiration that we draw from all of us around us, rather than motivation. But again, let me not, lest this delves into, unwanted philosophy, let me stick to the core subject on hand. Succession planning, contrary to what we believe, or at least in the context of what I am saying today, I'm not going to be talking about succession planning in terms of what we do to get our children into the business, how we equip them to be a part of our business. That is an important part of it, particularly in the context of the MSME industry. But I would like to treat this particular narrative or treat this particular thought process as a part of being future ready to propel your business to the next level. Succession planning or equipping the next generation to be ready with this is just one part of it, no matter how integral. So what I would like to do today is try and give you my perspective on how we can be more future ready as a business, and that in itself would be a kind of a, let's say, a reflection of how we could be ready with our succession planning for our business. Again, disclaimer that this is not some kind of classical management talk. I'm not a management graduate, I'm just an engineer. This is basically experiences that I have gleaned from all of you seniors in the audience, even some of the younger colleagues. It's basically experiences, narratives, observations that I have imbibed, shared from all of you. And basically I'm just giving it back to you in an encapsulated form, which actually means I'm ready to be a management consultant. Okay, I'm taking all the information, I'm asking you questions, taking all the information from you, processing it and giving it back to you. The only difference is I don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation, and I have not yet delivered a fat invoice to all of you. Maybe I'll do that later. So anyway, let's come to the topic. So I decided that I would try and break this up into 5 or 6 very simple elements, which are nothing but the most common questions that we ask of ourselves and ask of each other. Why? What? Where? When? Whom? Okay? So let's try and look at being future ready with your business or being ready with your succession planning, depending on how you look at it. Let's try and answer these questions for ourselves first. So the first thing is what? Okay? What is it that we really want to do with our business? Set goals for yourself, set aspirations for yourself. So the answer could be anything like, I would like to reach 100 crores in business. I would like to reach a profitability of 15%. I would like to be the leader in my particular space. I would like to be technologically the most advanced company. So all of these are goals that could be quantified or defined under the ambit of what. So this what is the primary reason that is motivating you to do business, and you're setting a certain vision for yourselves. So far so good. Then there is also the element of where. So currently we all have a certain geography of influence that is defined for ourselves. We are pan-India players, we are multinationals, we are operating, say, in one particular zone, in West Zone or North Zone. Maybe you're hyper-local, only in the state of Karnataka, or maybe even in the city of Bangalore. So you have to start defining where you really want to exercise your influence, because your strategy to be future ready is actually going to be dependent on this. So this is the second question, and as you see, I'm being very simplistic about it, and I'm trying to also respect the time that's been given to me. So this would be the second part of it in terms of where you want to conduct your business. The third thing, which is very, very important, which sometimes we tend to slip up on, is when. It's good to have milestones. So it's good to have, as I said, numeric milestones in terms of turnover, in terms of number of branch offices, in terms of wanting to go public and IPO. But then there comes the matter of when do you want to do this? And when you talk of when, it actually, you need to define short term, medium term, and long-term goals. Because without a timeline attached to some of these things, it really means nothing, or it would not lead to an optimal result for all of you. So if you're talking of going public, you need to say, okay, I need to go public with my IPO in 3 years. And then of course, it entails a huge amount of work to try and reach there. So how, whom, I will come to that part later, but at least these goals have to be very, very clear. If you want to reach a certain turnover, you got to define a timeline for that. If you want to open a number of branch offices, you got to define a timeline for that so that you can work around it. So again, when becomes a very, very important component of what you want to do. The fourth part is how you want to do it. Okay, and this is where I start bringing in the classical succession planning element, because how is invariably a function of, besides other elements, how is invariably a function of the people who will help you achieve these targets. And this is where, again, succession planning, contrary to what we believe, is not only about the next generation within your family. You might have the next generation who is not interested in your business. You might have the next generation who's just not there. You might have the next generation who is not capable. Now, it's a difficult thing for many of us to accept, but you might have the next generation who is just not capable of dealing with your business. So what do you do then? This is where you have to have an objective outlook towards it. You have to try and look at who is going to propel your business forward. Is it going to be your own family members, your own progeny? Is it going to be a set of professionals? There are also answers in terms of maybe it was not meant to be from within the organization. And this is where we are seeing increasingly the advent of inorganic growth, mergers, acquisitions, divestments. So this is also a part of your succession planning. The answer is not always lying within, there is also the answer that lies outside. So you have to be wary, you have to be alive to all the possibilities that exist and find your sweet spot in terms of where the right answer lies in terms of wanting your business to grow. And this is where I go back to my first point. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that inspires you? So if monetary targets are only what you seek, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with it, then it becomes a bit more line of sight in terms of what you want to do. But if the idea is, no, I want my business to perpetuate beyond my lifetime, I want my legacy to be safeguarded, I want my brand to be safeguarded, you have to look at avenues of inorganic growth as well. When I spoke of when, it also then again, it depends on what stage of your life you are in, how motivated you are. If you are in your mid-40s today, as many of us are here, are you really looking at working for the next 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, whatever it might be? You have to define your goals, your objectives, your timelines in accordance with that. So you have to have a holistic view of this particular thing. So coming back to how you're going to do this. When you talk of inorganic growth, I'm going to stress on this point, you have to make your company future ready for this avenue of inorganic growth. It's easier said than done, because for any of you who have delved into this element of inorganic growth, being ready for inorganic growth, mergers, acquisitions, joint ventures, whatever it might be, takes a lot of discipline and it takes a lot of structure within your organization. And this is the point that I want to emphasize, because many of us in this industry today are at a very healthy point, inflection point, where we are doing very, very well for ourselves. We are doing very well for ourselves individually. We are doing very, very well collectively as an industry. But we are not quite as structured as we need to be. We are not quite as scalable as we need to be. We are not as disciplined as we need to be. So this is very, very important in terms of being ready, being future ready for avenues of inorganic growth, which will call for different triggers, it will call for different levers, and it will call for different skill sets. Again, coming back to how you're going to do this. So please take your businesses a little more seriously. Do not try to apply templates that were valid yesterday to today. Do not try to extrapolate templates that are applicable today to your possible growth avenues tomorrow. Try and understand your business a little more deeply. Look at the competition, look at the future trends, travel a little more, go outside, see what's happening in other industries, look at other countries. I also think in terms of legislations, our industry is not very, very progressive. So we have to be ready for the influx of new legislations that might come into our industry and be ready to be compliant with them. Because this is going to be a serious hitch going ahead. We could be facing a serious roadblock going ahead in terms of our growth. For all the good work that we are doing today, we could really hit a stumbling block where legislations, unfortunately in India, are imposed almost overnight. It's not in a phased manner like in other countries. So please be ready with this as well. Also, I think we're very, very caught up in terms of trying to define. Now let's look at the succession planning in the classical parlance. Okay, we're too caught up in terms of saying, oh, let me educate my children. Let me, add skill sets to them, soft skills, educational skills, work experience. So, which basically means we are in our mind trying to make them worthy of inheriting our business. A more fundamental question is your business worthy of them leaving their possible alternate career paths and coming to you? We are trying to educate, give our children or our next generation the best possible education. We're giving them the best possible exposure. We're giving them the best possible lifestyle. And after this, we fail to ask ourselves the question, are we really making our organization worthy enough of them inheriting it? Granted that we have maybe in adversity run our businesses in a certain way in the past, the prevalent circumstances in the industry, in the world, in our own family were different, right? So maybe the earlier generations, it was a matter of sheer survival. So you had to do certain things which were not ideal, but that was the need of the hour. Expecting the next generation to do absolutely the same thing, I think is being very disrespectful to them. And eventually it would lead to a breakdown of the whole, let's say the legacy, the succession that we are trying to engineer. So you do not want them to be answering phone calls or maal kahan nikla hai, kahan atka hai. These are things that we have done. Perhaps it's okay. As I said, it was needed. But we have to create systems. We have to create, a robust organization that allows them to take it to the next level. You can't. I really think it will be such a huge and sad underachievement if our next generation has to continue to do absolutely the same things that we are doing. The world, the opportunities out there, believe me, are beyond what we can imagine. And this is accentuated and magnified in the context of where we are today in India and the time that we are. This decade is a golden decade for us in India, in the global context. So just trying to limit your vision to being an incremental 10% or 15% or 20% above what you are today is a huge underachievement and a huge disservice to the next generation. So let us try and make our businesses more future ready in terms of making sure that it's worthy of them inheriting it. So I've tried to cover, these various elements of what, where, when, whom. The last part, before I go into, let's say, the second part of my narrative, which is my appeal to the next generation, is it's a slightly philosophical question, but I think it's important we ask ourselves this. Why? Okay, fair enough. You want to open new branches, you want to hit a certain turnover, you're doing it in a certain way, and I can relate to this because, it's also sometimes a midlife crisis that we face when you come closer to the age of 50. You've done well for yourselves, for your organization, for your family, for the ecosystem around you, but then it starts begging the question, why are you really doing this? What is it that motivates you? And this is a little more true of MSMEs, which are driven largely by a family structure, and within that family structure, it's largely driven by someone who's calling the shots. So a lot is vested in that one individual or in that set of individuals as compared to a corporate, because the compulsions and the motivations for a corporate are different. So for MSMEs in particular, you really have to ask yourselves the question as to why am I doing this? What is it? Why and what kind of morph into one another? Why are you continuing to do this? Is it because you want to leave a legacy? Personally for me, believe me, the biggest motivation today, yes, you have your little milestones, your little targets and everything, but the biggest motivation, for example, and I'm not trying to say that this is the only way to do it, but just sharing my experience, the biggest motivation is to ensure that the legacy of my forefathers who set up Paint India back in 1951, where the industry was really in a fledgling state, and I would like to believe their vision was to grow their own business, their own existence along with that of the industry, and of course they have done it with fair amount of glory for the last 7 decades. As the caretaker of that legacy, I have to ensure that no matter what degree of success we achieve or don't, the legacy must remain untarnished. So the red line for me, the answer to why I am doing this is to ensure the sustenance of that legacy, but more importantly, the sustenance of that legacy with the highest level of integrity in the manner that they envisaged it, to make sure, you know, to put it in crude, not crude terms, but to put it in very simple ground level terms, bhala ho na ho, bura to na ho unka naam ka. We cannot allow their legacy, their reputation to go, to take any backward steps. This is one part. And secondly, again, believe me when I say this, today when we are at a level of reasonable comfort, personally, as an organization, as a family, as an individual, it is the desire now to give back to the industry that has served us for 7 decades. So this is the biggest motivation for us, and that is where you have to start asking that question to yourself as to why you want to do this. That is one part of it. The second part is of the why is, okay, I'm doing this, granted whatever I've said, let's accept that, but what is it that you want to do? You know, why are you doing this? Is there a philanthropic element to it beyond this? Obviously, when you're doing well for yourself, it means a certain financial gain. It means a certain gain of fame. But what do you want to do with this? Why are you aspiring for this wealth? Why are you aspiring for this name? What are you going to do with it? This is a question, and there is no answer to it. I'm not going to try to pretend that this is what you need to do. That's a question you need to ask yourselves. Why am I doing this? Because that will again give you clarity for the future in terms of why you are trying to engineer this succession planning, why you are trying to do certain things, why you are trying to make a certain name for yourself, why you're trying to accumulate this wealth. As I said, it's a bit philosophical, so it doesn't fit into the ambit of a business conference. But believe me, from personal experience, it will start demotivating you if you do not have a clear answer to this why. So I would urge all of you to try and look at succession planning in the context of these few questions. Before I step off the stage, let's say the second part or a smaller second part of my narrative is a request and exhortation to the younger generation. So succession planning for the elders or the earlier generation, so to speak, is what I tried to cover in the brief time that I had. But what's important for the new generation is, please, you know, you're coming in with, as I said, you're coming in probably with the best skill sets, with a certain base which perhaps your peers did, your predecessors did not have. So you are coming in invariably in a much more comfortable zone than what your predecessors had to set up for themselves. Please try and understand not only the business dynamics, which is easier, that's not the difficult part, right? There's information available in abundance around us. Please try and understand the culture of your company. The success that you're seeing today, the successful mantle that you're inheriting, has been a result not only of the business environment and the business acumen of your organization. Believe me, there is a certain cultural depth to your organization, unique to your organization. And while you try and make the positive changes within your organization, introduce your IT systems, introduce HR practices, expand your brand equity, do all the good stuff that you need to, let it not come at the cost of the values that your company stands for. Let it not come at the cost of the reputation of your organization. because this is the determinant of why your company has been successful and the reason why you are probably in business. Also, in this particular forum, in today's material world, sometimes the youngsters could lose sight of the fact that they are a part of a larger ecosystem. So I would like to also say, particularly in our industry, and I think the fact that I'm speaking about this at an IPCA conference makes it all the more relevant and topical. We are, sometimes the term is a bit abused, but we are an industry fraternity, we are an industry body, we are a closely knit industry. So we have to have that little empathy for each other, for your suppliers, for your customers, for your peers, because I find particularly in India that it's a very hierarchical thing, Suppliers are treated as beneficiaries of your money, and there is, there's not enough respect given to the supplier fraternity in our country. So, and I see this, I'm sorry to say, I see this particularly with the new generation. So we need to be a little more empathetic towards everyone around us in the industry. Try and be a true thought leader. The fact that you've inherited something that places you in a position of strength, as I said earlier, gives you, yes, it gives you a certain authority, but it also places a certain responsibility. You are an inheritor of a legacy, and you have to take, not only do you have to sustain it, you have to take it further. You have to be a thought leader within your industry. So please try and take yourselves a little more seriously. Please try and understand what our industry is about. Try and understand what your particular organization has been about. And, of course, the world is there for you to conquer. But please try and factor this into whatever you do. So I come to the end almost of my narrative. And thanks once again to IPCA for having me here. As I said, succession planning, maybe it was not quite what you expected, but again, I must say that these classical modules on succession planning are available. They are there, and I did not want to perhaps make it a redundancy by saying the same things that are there in that. I just thought I would share these little thoughts with you based on what my experiences have been, and my exhortation to the earlier generation, please empower the next generation. If you're getting them into the business, please empower them, give them the authority, give them the liberty to make mistakes, as long as those mistakes are not going to really derail their path ahead. My exhortation to the next generation, please take this industry forward using the same values that your predecessors have. Our future lies in your hands. Thank you so much, and look forward to meeting all of you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would request